the guy that invented football, or the team or the group of the kids in the dirt lot that invented baseball, the sport. That's what you're seeing here today. These are true pioneers of a sport. And we're getting older, and there's a transition where there's going to be a next generation that one's not going to remember the early pioneers. And I think it's important to kind of for any industry, any sport, to relish where you came from.
Yeah.
You know, and the history that goes along with it.
BMX Breakthrough is bridging the gap from old school to new school, from tracks to manufacturers, from new riders to their local tracks, and it doesn't stop at racing, but the mission is to connect people with bikes. Join me, Jay Oaks, as I interview key people in the sport and in the industry that are involved in their local circles, in their communities, at their local tracks, and aiming to make a difference on a local level. You'll hear stories, marketing tips, failures, successes, and a way to make a difference in your local BMX community. Let's dive in as we kick off this next episode. We're out here at Dirty Fest. We decided we made some time to make this happen.
Yeah.
Have a conversation. And John, I'm sorry, because I don't know as much of your story as I wish I knew.
Hey, if you're into BMX, it's all the same, right? So,
well, I've heard stories, I've heard tales, but I don't remember seeing. I remember seeing a couple magazines with you in photos and in shots and stuff. When I was racing, you weren't racing at that time, I don't think.
Right.
And anyway, will you tell me a little bit about your story and your journey in BMX?
Well, thank you for that. First of all, I started in '75. And as a young boy, obviously, and again, I've said this time and time again, we were just kids riding bikes, right? We weren't
just having fun.
We weren't, icons of a sport or starting anything. We were just riding bikes, and that's what was so special about it. Growing up, I grew up in the Bay Area, and I was pretty fortunate that I could ride a bicycle pretty good.
Okay.
And it kind of led me down this road of cycling. And I had the opportunity to race for all the big teams and be teammates with people like Stu Thompson, Brent Patterson, all the truly great legends, that I call BMX legends. And had just a blast doing it. When I quit racing, I opened my first bike shop. I was 25 years old. I became very successful at that.
Okay.
Owned that for 30 years. Had multiple locations at times, and ended up retiring and selling them off to Pong, who owns Santa Cruz Bicycles.
Oh, wow.
So that's who's owns them now. So,
okay.
yeah.
Were they all in the Bay Area?
They were all in Sacramento area.
Okay.
And I had sold them off to separate entities over the years, but literally bikes have consumed my life. I mean, from a little kid so I'm 61 and I'm out here today talking to you. So. It's been pretty special.
That's cool. Well, and I think, we're at an event that encapsulates that conversation, is bikes being a focal point of life.
Right? Well, and I think, a lot of people, we all have friends that played football in high school, and they run around that clique or that group, or and I talk to those guys now every once in a while, and they don't have friends like I have friends 50 years. And my common link is bicycles or BMX. It's really our reunion, if you will, our high school reunion.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
And I talk about that commonly, is that
BMX is a really weird community in a really good way.
Yeah.
That you can have really close friendships
Sure.
with the people that you race against.
Yeah.
You can be on the gate, but you can still be best friends with them.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then you spend time with them for years and years and years
Yeah.
going on.
Or even during the week, which we don't hang out with everybody that we race on the weekends or whatever it is. We travel together on tours and in different events. And it's funny now that we're older, and you're much younger than me, but now that we're older and we have children, we're doing that with our kids. And in my case, with my grandkids.
Yeah.
I've got grandkids that are going to start coming up, and
So cool.
You better believe we're getting them a BMX bike, so.
Yeah, those friendships are amazing, and I mean, I have my kids, and my dad's out here, so there's 3 generations of us out riding, and So you were talking about being a kid and being pretty good on a bike, but what was that experience like? I would assume that a bike was a sense of freedom for you.
Sure.
As a kid?
The only restriction I had was I had to be home before the street lights came on, right? I mean, I literally would get up and ride my bicycle every day. And, I idolized the motorcycle guys, the Brad Lackeys, the Bob Hannas, and, later Jeremy McGrath, and, which is really cool to see him out here
So
ripping
much
on
fun.
a bike, right?
Yeah.
But I mean, those were my idols, and I was riding my BMX bike, making the burr burr sounds, and I think that's what fueled a lot of the BMX in the early days was the supercross or the motocross scene, and I mean, I would get up and literally ride across town, which is just unheard of at 8 years old on my BMX bike.
Yeah.
Just ripping around. I just loved it.
And those stories, you don't forget those stories.
No.
Those memories. I was actually just telling somebody the other day about how we used to, my buddy and I would go from our house to the skate park and to the bike shop, and we would and we'd make a stop at Krispy Kreme.
Yeah.
We had a Krispy Kreme donut, and the light was on, and so we'd stop in and get a sample. And in quite a few instances, we had met this girl that worked there that she would give us 2 donuts each,
Right.
and that was our fuel for the day, and then go right around.
And how innocent is that?
Yeah.
I mean, in this today's world, you know what I
Yeah.
mean?
There aren't a lot of kids that do that.
No, it's pure.
Yeah.
And cycling in general, being a bike shop owner for 30 years and being around road cycling, mountain biking, BMX, they all have this intertwined purity about them.
Yeah.
There's nothing like taking a road bike and heading to the mountains and just on a climb for 2 hours. I mean, it's intense.
Absolutely.
And it all stems from BMX. It really does. So
Yeah. Which is it is neat. It's really fun to be a part of that and to be
Sure.
able to see where things have grown and progressed
Yeah.
from. So you, when you race for a few different
Redline,
sponsors.
yeah, Redline was a big one.
Was a big one. So what bikes were you? What years were that?
So probably my most prominent, years were in the 80s, the early 80s, 79 to say 85.
Okay.
I rode for some great bike companies. I rode for Redline. I rode for Patterson Racing. I rode for Skyway. And, I joke about it, but it's the truth. I was never really good. I was never a real winner.
Okay.
Because I didn't train. I didn't get up and watch what I ate and, practice starts and, did all the things that the greats did. I just rode my bike.
Okay.
But what I was known for was style, so I was the guy, making the top 10, but I was getting the magazine cover, So
Okay.
I got a lot of notoriety that way, which from a manufacturer standpoint, sold bikes, right?
Yeah.
Because the kids wanted your poster on the wall.
I want to be like that guy.
But if you look at the results, I was in last place. But and let's face it, I had Greg Hill, Stu Thompson, Brent Patterson, Brian Patterson, Andy Patterson. Those were all my immediate teammates. I mean, they're the greatest of all time.
Okay. So it was a stacked gate at the
You
least.
think?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's amazing. But your stories now, and you talking about having style, and what was the fun aspect of that? It sounds like you probably just had a really good time.
I just lived for fun. I mean, literally, I love to jump. I remember, we talked on another interview about being on tour.
Okay.
And we would, we'd have to be at the track on Friday. We'd race Saturday and Sunday. And then we had Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday to get to the next race. And that was all summer long. Now think about taking a 15-year-old, 16-year-old kid and putting them together with a group of other kids and doing that. I mean, we really learned about life during Monday through Thursday. And I can just remember riding my bike and us playing horse. That's what we played then. We'd do a jump, one-hander, and then the next guy had to do it or he got an H.
Love that.
And we did hours on end. And that's what I mean about purity to BMX especially, but cycling in general.
Yeah.
There's a pure thing about it. You
Yeah.
know, I just love, so.
Yeah, and I can speak to that personally. Watching my kids ride their bikes and love their bikes. Watching these kids out here that just absolutely love.
And you can go out to the
what they're
track
doing.
and watch your kid just rip it for hours at a time, and he's got a grin from here to here. I mean, how cool is that?
Well, and my son at 5.5, he both the kids crashed in at least one of their first motos each.
Yeah.
And so they were a little shook up, but as a whole, my son isn't all that competitive.
Sure.
But he loves being on the track.
He loves it.
He loves riding. He loves racing his bike. And I'm constantly asking them, do you want to go? Because I don't want to push it.
Sure.
I want to make sure they love it.
Yeah.
And my goal is that 20, 30 years from now, they love riding their bike.
Yeah.
Because it was something that was fun, it was rewarding,
Yeah.
it was engaging, it was exciting.
Yeah, it was pure.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, that's the magical number. I came from a sport that I was popular in. I opened a bike shop that it became popular, and everything was cycling. And my son, had no desire to race BMX.
Okay.
And I never pushed it. And then one day he said, Dad, I think I want to try racing BMX. So, secretly I'm like, yeah, right. So I got him to trick his bike, the coolest kit, He went out, raced something like 8 different races, won every single one of them,
Okay.
won the national in Reno. And then he said, I'm done. And I was like, cool, let's move on to the next thing,
That's cool.
He just did it till he didn't want to do it anymore. So
And you weren't pushing.
no,
It was-
no.
it was
I was probably opposite direction because I didn't want to be that dad,
Okay.
And I was super hypersensitive to it, which he got into motocross, and of course he was the guy, jumping 18-foot doubles at Hangtown, and I'm just like, oh my God, what did I get this kid into? But go-karts, we did it all.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
That's really
we
cool.
did everything together.
I love that.
At this moment, I'm going to interrupt our episode, our current interview, briefly to give a special shout out and thank you to our sponsors that have backed us financially in this project, in our mission, and give them a huge thank you. So at our gold level, we have Luminex Neon and Marketing Breakthrough. At our silver level, we have Sound Cedar Lumber and Bicycle Thieves. And at our bronze level, we have Pro Start Gates and Justin Shepard, Title Examiner. Thank you so much for your support. Thank you for backing us if you are looking for help with any project that you're working on, if you're looking for some cool things to do, go ahead and check out the links to their websites in our description and go ahead and visit them, show them some love. We are so appreciative for their support. And if you are interested in getting involved in a local track, helping out, or sponsoring a local track, sponsoring the BMX Breakthrough Project as a whole, please reach out at j@bmxbreakthrough.com. You can also go to our website and find out some of the needs of tracks and some of the things that we are working on at bmxbreakthrough.com. Once again, thank you so much for your support. Let's dive back into this conversation.
Well, and so we've gotten to know each other through Frogtown and Dirty Fest now. And so what is the excitement and nostalgia like for you being at these events?
Well, I think a lot of it is just a common link. You know, when you haven't seen somebody for 20, 30 years and you see each other and you pick up right where you left off. It's like, it's weird, you know, but it's cool. And it's like chicken soup for the soul, right? For me, that's what this is about, you know. I obviously I have something going on with me physically here that I like to talk about, or I'm not ashamed of or afraid of. I was diagnosed with Parkinson's at the age of 40. I'm 61. So it's kind of weird. I don't know my adult life without Parkinson's, which to me is cool because I don't know what I'm missing.
Yeah.
And I've been very fortunate that my illness has progressed very slowly or slower than most. And that I am thankful. But what it's given me is an opportunity to be a voice to something bigger than me. And the BMX community has acknowledged it, embraced it, and just been phenomenal, you know? So that's what these events allow me to be a mouthpiece, not only eating that chicken soup and seeing all my friends, but spreading the word that we all have challenges and we're all in this together and every little bit makes a difference. So.
Well, and it's amazing too. I love hearing you talk about it as openly because there's the side of being okay with being open or shutting it down. A few weeks ago, I had a conversation with Mark Darcy, who's very open about his leg and coming back from that and the struggle to get there. And you can either become a victim to it or you can be a champion of it. And it's neat to see what you've done.
Well, I appreciate that. And it wasn't like that at the beginning. You know, I struggled with depression and I was the guy that depression was not real, you know, because it's not tangible. Once I started dealing with depression, I realized I needed help and coming out and talking about it and not just sitting on my hand or hiding the tremors and it was therapeutic for me. So I was making a difference in somebody else's life, but little did they know I was making a difference in myself. And so
that's amazing.
I encourage you to talk about your issues, and people have treated me. They don't treat me like somebody who's ill. Or has, you know, it's not kid gloves. I joke about it, you know, when I hug Stuart, I give him a massage, you know, it's real. And you gotta be out front with it. And that's helped me a long way. This has been more for me than me for them. So,
it's amazing.
So, you know,
and so on your behalf, we've done some things within Frogtown where we've given to and I can't remember.
Davis Finney Foundation.
Okay. Davis Finney. Okay. And so can you speak more to that foundation?
Sure, absolutely. So when I was dealing with the illness, there are two ways to look at this. We're searching for a cure, right? We all want a cure for an incurable disease, But then we also have to recognize that you have to live with it.
Okay.
There's people that are living with Parkinson's and they're caregivers, they're helpers. And I'm functioning. I mean, I'm out here, I'm talking to you today, but there are a lot of men and women that are diagnosed with Parkinson's and a year later they can't feed themselves. And it's pretty intense. And their caregivers are the ones that are burdened with, that. So, Davis Phinney is the winningest American cyclist in the history of American cycling. So he's won more than the Lance Armstrongs and the big names out there. He was diagnosed with Parkinson's years ago, I think at the same age that I was. And he founded a foundation to live with Parkinson's and find processes that could help people survive with the disease. He wants a cure, let's face it.
Yeah.
But he realizes you got to live with it too. And so all of my charitable contributions go to the Davis Phinney Foundation.
Okay.
And everybody in the BMX world has now said, this is our brotherhood, if you will. And we're gonna work with the Davis Phinney Foundation. So it's been amazing.
I love that.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, and you build things.
Yeah.
And I don't know actually the extent of that. I know that I've been the recipient of some of your trophies.
Yeah.
And we've got a project
Piece
that
of
we can
art.
talk about as well. But then I saw, was it in the last few months or so, you built a trike?
Oh yeah,
something?
that thing's a death machine.
Okay.
That is it's a trike with slicks on it about this big with a 6.5 horse motor on it. Rocket
Wow.
ship. But so I'm just a gearhead. I like metal. I'm artistic. I'm creative. I'm creative digitally. So I kind of put everything together. And make things, which leads us to this, which is kind of a fun project. And you guys may have heard of Stuart Thompson or Stu Thompson.
Yeah, maybe.
Stu. He was a recipient of a Skyway Tough Wheel that they made that was this unique one-off color. And he had a few of them, and he was going to donate the money to charity. I'm going to let Stuart come on in with us.
Yeah.
Stay seated. So, so you can see my face. But yeah, a friend of mine, Earl Dickens out of Chicago.
Yeah, I'll give you a mic.
Oh, Earl Dickens. I met Earl Dickens. He invited me to a charity event that he does at, I believe it's the Hill BMX in Chicago area. And his son is autistic, and he builds bikes like from the garbage and gives them to autistic kids. And that's his passion because of his son. So when he called me up one day and he said, hey, what does it take to get me to come out to my bike show and stuff like that? I said, ask, and then, we settled on some stuff and I flew out to Chicago and met his son and at the bike show he had what it calls a puzzle bike. And it was like a 26-inch Schwinn Stingray, big wheels, but it was all because with autistic, it's called the puzzle. As you can see, the different colors and stuff like that. It's very popular in the Autistic Society. And so he had this bike, and it was all super cool colors and stuff. But then he had tough wheels on it that were white. And I'm thinking,
this can't work.
And I'm like, this doesn't work. So I knew the people at Skyway. And so, like a couple months later, I met with them at Spring Fling in Florida, in St. Augustine, and I met them, and I talked to Ken, and I said, "Hey, listen, can you put your Skyway plastic pellets in, not black and not red, but just throw red and white and yellow and just because this." And I told him my vision was to get a set of wheels built for Earl's bike, so to complete the puzzle.
And make them a one-off.
Yeah, and make
very
them,
unique.
so a couple of years later, they got the bike and I gave Earl the wheels, and it was great. And then I think Skyway was closing their doors down a little bit, and he said, "Hey, I got a couple one-offs that we were using as prototypes. You want them? And I said, yeah, I'll take them. So he gave me 4 of them that were just, it's not a 100% multicolor, but it's not a solid color. Yeah. So I got that. I raffled a couple of them off, just bare. They're not usable. They're just blanks. And what I do is I raise the money and I donated it to the Autistic Society. So, because there's a few things that like, autism, Parkinson, I'm a cancer survivor. So 2 of the charities that I give to are autism and cancer. So I asked John, I said, hey, I know you're good with this. I got this one tough wheel left. Can we do something and work with the Autistic Society? So I've had it a while, and I'm just trying to find the right media platform to get it out there so we can raise as much money for the purchase of this, and all the money raised will go to an autism. I've been giving the money to the Chicago branch, but it can be whoever, as long as it goes to one of the autism, because they're in every state, cities, even my nephew, his wife, their child is autistic.
Okay.
So it hits close, and these are diseases and things that we have to live with and keep going forward. And so John made this awesome piece, and it says to make a difference in someone's life today, and it's presented by Stu Thompson and John Cruz, and it's one of his awesome designs.
And it's still usable. You could take the wheel off and throw it on a bike if you wanted to, but you wouldn't want to.
You're not going to ride very far.
But the point is it's the real deal.
Yeah.
It features some autism words of encouragement and icons on it that are kind of unique, and it's just, when I see something, I try to picture how would that be cool.
Yeah.
And
so all we can do is we'll just kind of keep tabs on the social media sites, John's, and I don't have a social media site, but I'm on Facebook, Instagram, and all those good things. Or just look me up. But
yep.
And just look for some postings that if you want to get in on the auction and or just offer a prize, and let's make it happen and get some money to help some children, adults, and make a difference. Exactly, for sure. So. And that's my story.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Oh man, thank you.
That's a double whammy. You got Stu and old man Cruiser in the grig. So how cool is that?
That's so neat. So I love what you've created there as a result of that. Being able to create something tangible.
Yeah.
And we'll try to connect if we have a link to connect you with this piece. Once the episode airs, we'll try to figure out a good way to do that.
Yep.
But so you've done things like this. You've done Frogtown Awards.
Yeah.
And different types of metal.
It's cool, huh?
Yeah.
I mean, I never, when I started making metal art like this, I mean, this has a purpose, but I was just making stuff. And what was cool is Dirty Fest last year is I had these pistons, and these big pistons, and they were on rods. They look like little people.
Okay.
The way that they're shaped were.
Yeah.
And I always say that, Eric Carter has the best hair in BMX because he's got this surfer thing.
This flowing mane.
Right?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Just so cool. So I made I made all these long pieces of strips of metal.
Okay.
Like this flowing Fabio hair on this piston. It looked like a little character, and I gave him handlebars and a number plate, and I was like, I got to do one for JV, And I was like, JV, I always see with his glasses and a ball cap, right? Then I thought, I got to do one for Miranda, right? And I, of course, the mustache, the big bushy mustache. And then I made it with this cape, the Superman cape.
Okay.
And the not Superman, but Evel Knievel cape.
Okay.
And the Evel Knievel paint job. And
like the one that he wore at Frogtown.
Totally,
too. Yeah.
Right? That was the inspiration.
Which was basically a skin suit.
Right. It was sausage casing, and he just jumped in it, just like we all do now. And so it turned out really cool. And I presented him to him, but it was from the heart. You know what I mean? And these 3 men started crying. and they were so moved by it. And I thought, man, that made me feel good. So I've been doing this and then just sending them to different people that have affected me or had made a difference in my life, and so I've sent them out to a lot of people, and more to come. So.
Okay, which is so cool. I remember seeing those last year, and I appreciate the awards that you've made and given out, and being able to to race well enough to be the recipient of one.
That's awesome.
But it was fun getting to work with you a little bit on Frogtown planning, and being able to spend time here. And what is it about BMX? We've talked a little bit about it, but for this next generation, why is BMX so valuable in your eyes?
Well, I think we're at a tipping point right now of the age and the health of pioneers of a sport.
Mm-hmm.
The guy that invented football, or the team or the group of the kids in the dirt lot that invented baseball, the sport. That's what you're seeing here today. These are true pioneers of a sport, and we're getting older, and there's a transition where there's going to be a next generation. That one's not going to remember the early pioneers, and I think it's important to kind of for any industry, any sport, to relish where you came from. And the history that goes along with it. I mean, you look at the cyclists today that are riding BMX bikes, and they are freaking machines. They're art. They're masses of muscle coordinated to spin and just fly. And they came from somewhere. You know what I mean? And I think that's cool. I think for both sides, to know where you came from and know where you went to as a pioneer or whatever.
Yeah, it's important to know the history, because for the same reason that we talk about political history and history of any sort, it's so important to remember that, to be able to honor the past. And I've got a friend that was a pro skateboarder, late 70s, early 80s, Eddie Elguera.
Okay.
And he's in the process of working on a documentary because he's trying to hold on to that history. Yeah, being able to tell the stories and make sure that people know where tricks came from.
Yep.
And in the same way, I use the example that you just used, and I've used it on multiple episodes where I say, you don't get to know the founders of baseball, of football.
Yeah.
You can't hang out with them, but I can hang out with you here, which is amazing. I just appreciate it so much. And you and Mike Miranda,
Stu Thompson,
and being able to hang out with legendary people that I'd only seen on magazines.
Sure.
But it's really neat, but it's also fun, the bike side of things.
Yeah.
Because I'm racing I think it's an 82 or an 83, an MX2.
Right.
From the era that you would have been riding for Red Light.
Absolutely.
I'm guessing you probably never had an MX2.
No, I was a pro line, kind of guy.
You had a nicer bike, but it's a...
I rode what they gave me. That's all.
Exactly. Yeah, they wouldn't have given the sponsored rider an MX2.
Well, it's funny because I was talking to Stuart earlier, and we were talking about something, and I said, were your bikes... Stu lived in LA and I lived in NorCal, but we would meet on the weekends or fly together, right? Where we were going as teammates. And I said, did you ride out of the box bikes, or were all yours custom? He's like, all mine were custom. I was like, man, look at this. I love that. That's BMX for you right there.
Thanks, Glenn.
No, I said, I rode out of the box bikes, I said, but I wasn't on the, on the podium as much as you. So you got the custom ones. But
okay, so you didn't have the MX2, but you still had a bike out of the box.
Yeah.
But riding this, and I think that anybody riding BMX,
Yeah.
racing BMX now should experience what it's like to ride on an old geometry bike.
Dude, you're a modern rider, so you know what the real bikes are nowadays compared to what we rode back then.
That what, 18 and a half, 19 inch
check-
top tube?
I don't know the new stuff. So,
Okay.
So you can be testimonial to that.
But I understand why your bars were so far forward, because you want a little bit of extra length.
Yeah.
We just my dad just put a laid back seat post.
Yeah.
Went down to True Torch and got a laid back seat post for it. And it's wild. It's
Yeah.
twitchy.
It's a death machine. Can you imagine riding today's tracks on a 70s, 80s BMX bike? I mean, dude, it would be sketch. I don't care how good you are.
It's a very different ride
Yeah.
than what we have now.
I'm sure.
Because you go, I mean, it's about 3.5 inches different. Is that the top tube length on my modern race bike is 22 inches.
Yeah.
And the rear chainstay is 15 and a half.
What's an old MX2 top tube? What's the length?
I think it's 18 and a half or 19.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the seat post, my seat post I would run was that high, and your guys is like
Slam
a
'em
stub,
down.
right?
And yeah, and so it's a very different feel,
Yeah.
different
It's-
ride.
It's evolution. It's any sport evolves, right? And I hear some of the old timers they're going, "That's not BMX. That's not what BMX was meant to be."
Yeah.
Today's racing, dude. I'm impressed with the BMXers of current, generation. Fast as you know what, and if I was going to say if Stu Thompson was racing today, he'd be just like that. He is just like that,
He's still a machine out there.
He's still 60 plus years old, but he it's evolution of a sport.
Yeah.
And I would have been that top guy racing in today's, market when I was 18 or 17 or whatever, but
Yeah.
it's a different era.
It's different, but it's and it is different, but there's a value to both. And like Jason Morris and I have talked about it, is loving, and Jason's really good at the elite level.
Sure.
And running an expert, and he's very competitive
Yeah.
up top, but to be able to race here and race with blown out corners and
Yeah.
and it's a very different type of track.
Yeah.
That's really fun.
A good rider has fun, and no matter what they're doing, right? It doesn't
Yeah.
matter if we're playing horse, jumping, or racing. You just live it.
Have a good time.
It's pure. It's chicken soup.
Oh, we'll have to at least take a pause.
Sure.
From the conversation, because motos are starting.
Yeah.
And I got to get back up there and help my kids go ride.
Go rip it up.
But man, John, thank you for the conversation.
Anytime.
And yeah, thank you just for being open and willing to
Hey.
chat with me, and thanks for sharing your art
Yeah.
with us.
For autism, let's raise a bunch of money. Let's make a difference. So-
Absolutely.
So thank
Let's
you.
do it.
Thank
Cool.
you.
Thank you, John.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you for joining us in today's episode. It is because of people like you and our sponsors who make this whole thing possible, because they have a desire to see the sport grow. If you would like to get involved in the mission of BMX Breakthrough, you can start by going to your local track, find a way to volunteer, help out, and serve there. Or you can go to our website, bmxbreakthrough.com, in order to donate, find out about sponsorship, or learn more.